This is the HomeTech Podcast for Friday, January 28th from Sarasota, Florida. I'm Seth Johnson.
From Powell, Ohio, I'm CJ Huddle.
And from Pickering, Ontario, I'm Gavin Campbell.
And welcome everybody to the HomeTech Podcast. The podcast that's all about all aspects of home technology, home automation, and just everything that goes in your home that could be technology related. We'll definitely talk about. We've got a couple of cool things to talk about tonight, including a project Gavin kind of teased at the end of the show last week. But I think first, all three of us want to wish a very special person a very special happy birthday.
We want to wish a happy birthday to Greg Scott. Greg is an active member in our HomeTech Slack channel. And today, Wednesday, January 26th, he's actually celebrating his 50th birthday. So we all just wanted to say happy birthday, Greg, and we hope you've had a good day.
Yes, happy birthday, Greg. I didn't even realize you were that old. I honestly thought you were younger than me. But you know what? You look good for your age. That's all I could say.
He does look young. He does look very young.
It's all that running in snow that he does every single day.
Yeah. That's probably it. I probably should run more. Of course, running in Florida, though, it just makes you look older, I think. That's the problem. Yeah. Anyway, we've got a couple of things that we want to kind of put a different segment here at the beginning of the show about follow-up. Gavin was kind of teasing about a dryer automation thing that he was trying to pull off last week. And I think, Gavin, I want to say that you ran across some kind of like device over the weekend and got that in. Tell us what's going on with this.
Yeah, so basically it's more like dryer monitoring. So I wanted to put in an automation where once my dryer was done, it would notify us over Sonos and stuff. And over the years, I've tried vibration sensors and, the battery would just die or it would flood the network with, messages. But I ran across a current monitoring switch, and basically it's a little device on Amazon, $30 I got it for. You put it on one of the legs of the incoming power, and when it detects power, it then closes or opens a switch, right? So I got that from that idea. I decided to put in I had an old Fibaro contact sensor that allows external switches, a couple wires into that, and then now when the power comes on or goes off on the dryer, it now triggers the Fibaro Z-Wave sensor to trigger my hub, and now I can do whatever I want from there. And currently we send out a message that the dryer is done over all my Sonos speakers. Wife loves it because now we know when it's done no matter where we are. It's great. It works really well. I'm actually so shocked how well this worked. And, this could be applied to so many other things. I'm just using it for my dryer, but you can monitor so many other things that draw power. It was literally 10 minutes to install it. If you're nervous about it, all I did was open up it sounds worse than it really is, but I opened up the back of my dryer. It's just a little panel, one screw. I put this over one of the legs. I just had to unplug it, put this through, plug it back in, and that was pretty much it. Closed it all back up, vacuumed away. We were good, back in business. Make sure you unplug the dryer first, that's all I have to say. And this is a good solution if you have a 240 volt dryer, right? Because those plugs are bigger plugs. There's no standard, energy metering plug. If you have a 120 volt, you could buy devices that monitor the energy and report that back and run automations off that easily. But this is a great solution for 240 volts.
I can't really tell. Does this take some kind of input power as well?
That's the best part about this. It takes no power. The power it uses, it generates off of the
induction.
I don't know how it does it. Yes. So basically, as soon as power is applied to the dryer, you'll see the light come on.
Huh.
And then it flips the switch back and forth, as needed. As soon as power is cut, it quickly closes the switch, and it's amazing. It works really well. It's instant and it's adjustable, so you can adjust it, based on how much power is being drawn. So it'll only trip if it's over a certain number of amps, for example, if you just want to get it at a certain point.
Nice. It's a little magic device you found here. That's pretty cool.
I was amazed how easy it was to implement and how well it works. It blew me away.
These things are great. I see them a lot in very old AV installations for like home theaters and stuff. They would use it to detect when like a cable box or when a DVD player turned on, that kind of thing. So this technology is great, and it's one of the best things because it's low technology for an easy solution.
So right now, my dryer, I added Z-Wave smarts to it. Right now, it will notify me when it's on and when it turns off and when it's done, and I'm loving it.
I found a 12 volt DC LED automation delay timer, but it has a thing. Well, I guess it has this little like screen on it, and it just reminded me that the only thing I want is to have my oven, have the right time on it during the day. And I'm like, yeah, you can get those clocks from the Sharper Image that like sync up with the nuclear atomic time or whatever they do. I don't know how they do it. It's magic.
Yes.
But anybody can just plug those in or plug them in. Heck, you put in like 2 AA batteries and they just sync up. Like, why can't they put that same technology from the Sharper Image into like the same thing I put in my house and rely on when I'm walking by at night? Like,
on your microwave, on your oven, on everything that you have to reset after a power outage.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. Yes.
It's crazy. Well, that's really cool, man. It's a good find. And I'm trying to think if I don't know if I need my dryer to tell me when it's done, but definitely the washer.
For my washer, I just have it's a standard plug. I have a Zeus high amperage plug that on there, and same concept. When it drops below a certain amount of amperage or power usage, it will then trigger my notification. So same concept, but it's just the dryer was 240 volts, so I had to look at other options.
Right. I want to see on our show a long time ago, we had some guests on that were doing like washer automation. And there was a little device that they had come up with that was like a little round ball that you tossed into your washer. And I can't remember the name. I'll have to find it and put a link to it in the show notes. But it was an interesting device, and I was trying to look it up here while we're live recording to see if I could find them, see if they were still around. But yeah, that's the one. I need to figure out a way. Or it sounds like Zeus has a solution, but I don't have any Z-Wave hubs, I guess, in my house, so I may have to find a different way around that. Just another sensor input somewhere. Well, yeah, speaking of electricity, I'm going to be using a lot of it. You guys have, well, this is all, I'm going to blame this on, let's just blame it on the hub and the things that fly by there. And I'm specifically looking at you, TJ, because you're the one that told me about these government auction sites where you can get surplus equipment for like it could be next to nothing. So I don't know. It turns out they're not that great of deals right now, but you and Gavin were talking about setting up some Unraid servers, and I'm like, yeah, it'd be really cool if I had a computer to make an Unraid server on. Oh, I'm looking at these stupid on the government auctions. I wonder if they have servers here too. And guess what? I bid on a server, and I sent you guys a link to it. It said server and ports, many ports, I guess. I really couldn't tell from the pictures what was in it, but I was like, throw like maybe $100, $200 at it and see what happens. Well, I won the stupid thing, and I had to drive up and pick up the server. The servers turned out to be 6 massive servers. And it filled the entire trunk of my car. And there were probably like 3 or 4 switches and some sonic wall stuff too. All in all, for like $200, I think the best thing out of it, like I got, was a 52 port Netgear like PoE Plus switch, so gigabit and everything. Hey, that's great. I can definitely use that. But I've been kind of tinkering with these servers too. And it's thanks, guys. Thanks, I appreciate that. That's going to keep me busy.
No problem. And I think you're really going to appreciate, especially with Unraid, the number of threads you're going to have. You're really going to love that. It's all about the threads.
Oh, well, yeah. Speaking of threads, it's a good segue there, Gavin. Belkin's been talking about thread. They set up a landing page, and this is interesting. It looks like this thing actually might happen.
Yeah, so their landing page is all about thread, with the Matter coming out. It's feeling more and more real. Every week we go by, it feels more and more real. We're getting closer and closer. And they're going to be introducing Matter and Thread into all of their devices, it looks like, from their switches to their button remote, which looks really cool, to their outlets. I'm looking forward to what Thread does. I'm actually looking forward to it. Even though I have a hub that supports Zigbee, Z-Wave, everything, I'm hoping my hub will add Thread to it, and then I can integrate all these devices and the speed that comes with it into my hub.
Yeah, and everything they're posting on this landing page is everything you want from a home automation system, right? They have 6 bullet points down here in the middle, and they are speed, improves primary network, reliability, no hub or bridge, extended range, and future proof. And being in the home automation space for so long, these 6 points are super important to me. And if they do all of those things, they'll have a very successful product.
Keep in mind, this is marketing.
Absolutely.
These are all marketing terms. They must have a good marketing team.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good landing page. This is like, it's got the hero images on it and everything, all the cute little animations and things, telling you how it works. What is interesting is that Belkin, these Wemo devices have traditionally been Wi-Fi. Now, there's nothing that stops them from putting Thread on Wi-Fi devices, because that's, part of the spec, or not Thread, but Matter on this. And so they're switching this is like they're switching all this over to Thread, and it looks like these are going to be new devices. I'm just having a hard time figuring out if this is new devices or all of the devices. Because I scroll all the way down the bottom, there's just 2 devices listed. So
yeah, the 2 devices listed look like they're new devices. And if you go to the specs, it just says supports Thread and Bluetooth.
Okay.
So I would assume the ones listed there are Thread specific, but the other ones are, I guess I'm not sure of yet.
Yeah. So it may be that to get a more reliable Wemo network, you're going to want to get these specific point devices that have the Thread radios built into them, and move these off Wi-Fi. I mean, like TJ, you were saying, this is what a pro system looks like. And now we're going to start seeing that reliability and that configuration set up in people's homes that are just buying DIY off the shelf Wemo gear, which is awesome, because it's going to work so much better when you're moving all of those devices off your Wi-Fi. Oh man, that's going to be great. So good to see that's rolling out. And we got another little piece of follow up here. Kind of an interesting post that Gavin, I think you dug up from Innovelli, but kind of ties in with what TJ was saying about the death of Z-Wave last week. I kind of kind of dismissed it and said, no, Z-Wave will be fine. But I don't know, seeing the numbers that are in this post makes it look a little bit more evident that Zigbee is just off the charts above what a Z-Wave could, I don't know, I wouldn't say ever do, but has ever done. Like this is wild to see these numbers.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea of what we're talking about, it was in the Innovelli forums. The CEO was discussing, with us regular users, plans for the future, his struggles with getting Z-Wave chips, and why they're moving to Zigbee. And one of the things that came up was the sales numbers globally of the various products, and they showed over the last, I think it was 10 years, the number of sales of Zigbee versus number of sales of Z-Wave versus Wi-Fi versus Bluetooth. And these numbers are actually shocking, because in 2021 alone, they're showing like Zigbee as owning like 14% of all sales, I think it was. And Z-Wave is much lower at 8%, 8 to 9%. So it kind of shows how far ahead. And when you look at the actual numbers, they're projecting 30 million in 2023.
30 billion. That's a B.
Sorry, 30 billion in 2023 of Zigbee chip sales versus Z-Wave, which is 3 billion, right? Like that's 10 times the amount. And that's just insane if you think about it.
It's pathetic. $3.7 billion that's just pathetic.
Yeah, that's sad. They need to step it up.
It's still a good number for them, I would assume. But yeah, I was actually shocked by this. When you look at Zigbee and the amount of sales they're doing off Zigbee, it actually eclipses, and has for, I don't know, as far back as this chart goes to 2012, has eclipsed Wi-Fi. And I don't know if they're applying this to a specific, like, is this applied to home automation specifically or what? But man, Zigbee I know has been around, but it's wild to see that it has been doing more in sales globally than Wi-Fi radio chips themselves. This is just really interesting.
And the part that shocks me the most is that even a product called Enotion, I've never heard of this before, but they sell more than Z-Wave.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
That's like an industrial IoT type product. I've got to say, this chart has to be limited to like sales related to the home. It can't.
It must be.
Because if I think about Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is on here too. Bluetooth is lower than Wi-Fi, which makes sense, but Zigbee is still well over both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Those two products are in every cell phone. Like it would be incredible if Zigbee was selling that much more. You would think that everything you have in your house would be Zigbee by now.
A couple other points that this comment brings up, which is a very good point when you're talking about consumer gear, is the price increase to do a product like Z-Wave. One of the things he points out is, are people going to be able to justify, a $15 to $20 price increase for the same switch just because it has Z-Wave in it instead of Zigbee or Wi-Fi? And at the end of the day, most consumers do not care. They're not going to care if it has Z-Wave or Zigbee or Wi-Fi. They just want it to work with their hub. And, it's just another sign that Z-Wave is kind of out the door. There's not really a good solution for it, especially with all the chip shortages going on.
Yeah, I know they were pushing Z-Wave heavily into security for contacts. And I mean, they even had like a special Z-Wave secure thing that they came up with not too long ago, SC2 or something like that.
S2
is that? Yeah, that wasn't too long ago. But it kind of just put the encryption that Zigbee already had on Zigbee or Z-Wave. So it was kind of like, oh, I've seen this before, but I'm glad you're doing it now.
So for a second week in a row, TJ is still predicting the death of Z-Wave. We'll just go with that.
We got the crystal ball out, TJ. It's going to happen. So, and Gavin, you brought up some interesting points on some Z-Wave issues that people are seeing in the field about these Z-Wave 700 series sticks. What's going on there?
So I've been keeping an eye on this because I've been affected by this at some point or another, but it's actually been reported now officially and acknowledged by Silicon Labs. The community has discovered issues with the Z-Wave sticks where when the Z-Wave network got busy, they would freeze up. And I've actually seen that myself. And, the fix was always, minimize the amount of chatter by, turning off power reporting and things like that, right? To get around it. But it's still every now and then happens. And Silicon Labs, it was reported apparently like many months ago and they were in denial. But now they kind of have to acknowledge it because it's coming from multiple communities that actually have test labs and packet captures and stuff. And they're coming with evidence saying there's a bug in your firmware that's causing issues, and headaches with Z-Wave. And I think it's becoming more prevalent now as the 700 sticks are more popular. When I first got my Habitat hub, it was the first one to have that chip in it, right? So it wasn't out in all the other hubs yet. So they have acknowledged it, and rumor is that they might be releasing a fix this week. We will see. I'm keeping a close eye on this because if it does fix that solution, it will, a lot of Z-Wave frustration will go away.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was hoping to ask, and you covered it pretty well there, that they can update this kind of thing. Like, this is something that they can Z-Wave themselves push out, or manufacturers going to have to like recompile their code and issue updates? How does that work?
Well, I can speak for the Habitat hub. It's as easy as when they release an update for the hub, we have a new button that says update the Z-Wave firmware, and you just click it and it does it easily. I don't know how other hubs handle it, if they just automatically do it in the background, but it is done via software and updates.
Interesting. Well, hopefully that'll clear up some of those issues and, let you turn those, get your chatty network back. Let you turn those power notifications back on. All right, guys, what do you say we jump into the HomeTech headlines now?
Let's do it.
Snap One has acquired a longtime Canadian distribution partner, Staub Electronics, in a move to expand the company's North American local branch footprint. Snap One CEO John Heyman points out the acquisition brings together two companies that have actually been working together for more than 10 years and share some of the same commitments to the industry. The acquisition will strengthen this is a quote from Heyman, this acquisition will strengthen our capabilities across Canada, including a wider range of products, providing faster turnaround times on orders, allowing for same-day order pickups, and delivering more product choice than ever before to our Canadian partners. And say, but by making Staub part of Snap One, we can bring the Snap One local branch experience into Canada. So that's great. Sounds good for Canadian dealers, but it also sounds like it's kind of business as usual because other than like logistics, right? This is they've been working together already. This is where you'd buy some of your Snap product if you were a dealer in Canada.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much change. It's going to definitely strengthen Snap's presence in Canada.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this. I want to say this is like 33 local branches or something. It said. I think I read in this article or somewhere else that they were going to add 33 more just by this acquisition alone. So it definitely gives them a good footprint to have their products in front of dealers who kind of need them for same day. I can tell you, dealers are really getting used to that same day pickup coming from a distributor. Amazon ruined us all, like with their 2-day delivery, and everybody expects to get things, as fast as they can. So, as hard as it is to kind of plan and figure out how to do, just in time is still big in our industry. We're still ordering product, as we get the quotes done, and we're still telling people maybe 2 or 3 weeks. That might not happen quite, with a number of products, but a lot of guys are still trying to, they're not holding inventory. I can tell you that they're ordering the product when they get the job or trying to figure out where they can order the product. So it will be good for Snap dealers to have a local pickup and be able to promise that they'd be able to do something knowing that there could be some inventory or just around the corner at the local Snap AV branch.
Part of that world domination plan that Snap has going on.
Right. All right. Speaking of world domination, recent rumors are swirling around Peloton as the company, which once was valued at nearly $50 billion, struggles to please Wall Street's expectations in the, quote, post-lockdown future that we're going through right now. Analysts are floating Apple as a potential buyer for the now pathetically valued. And this you think that those Z-Wave numbers are pathetic. Listen to this, $7.9 billion. That's pathetic. Come on, Peloton. You can fatten that wallet up just by selling more bicycles. Given Apple's interest on health, this might not be a bad acquisition for the company, but I don't know. Guys, what do you think? I look at this and I'm like, why wouldn't Apple just make their own bicycle and put an iPad on it?
Anytime a company goes through trouble and they're somewhat clean, it's always proposed that Apple buys them, right? We've been hearing about Sonos acquisitions by Apple for the past 5 or 6 years at least.
Savant.
Savant. I mean, there's all kinds of acquisitions that go through people's heads, and Apple is always the one that they see acquiring people. I don't see the Peloton thing happening myself, but crazier things have definitely happened.
And even though it might not happen, I can see it happening. I think it would be a good fit because they're pushing their fit Apple Fitness thing a lot now. Peloton I call it a competitor to that because it was another subscription service with trainers, etc. They're going to eliminate that competition there, bring it in-house, own it. I think it would be a good fit for them. Less competition for them means more money for them.
Yeah. I just have to wonder if they couldn't, like, don't get me, I agree. An Apple bike would be a good fit, but like, wouldn't they already sell touch screens, right? They already, like, that's the whole point of the Peloton thing. Like, you have an instructor that yells at you or whatever on a touch screen rather than being in the same room. And that was great during the pandemic because you couldn't go to the gym, which is why Peloton was valued like $50 billion. It's because, I mean, literally every client I ever had was buying these things and sticking them. I'm like, what? You don't even, I've never seen you exercise. What are you getting one of these for? It's like, it's kind of wild, but now they're sitting in the same rooms with like clothes hanging on them. Cause that's what the, exercise machines do. But, I don't know. It seems like Apple could do something on their own or just have an iPad or Apple TV generated class, kind of similar to the way Peloton works, and just kind of maybe even hook into the Peloton like bike itself. I don't see what the acquisitions, why they need to buy them.
There could be other IP related stuff in that deal too, and I know Peloton did buy another fitness company. Was it Life Fitness or one of them where they have other equipment? So they have a treadmill as well and some other equipment. Maybe Apple can just get that whole gym experience now in your home. You can have your Apple Gym The iGym.
iGym.
I better buy that web page right now.
iGym.com.
There you go.
You could drive your Apple car to the Apple Gym.
There you go.
It's just right next door. All right, well, moving on, but also speaking about Apple, and maybe Apple. HomeBridge version 1.4.0 now adds support for HomeKit Secure Video, allowing nearly any RTSP camera to be used with the Apple service. HomeKit Secure Video, or HSV for short, brings camera streaming, recording, and activity notifications directly to the Home app and saves the last 10 days worth of activity in your iCloud storage. As of January, I kind of looked on their website, about 15 cameras were HSV compliant, but this new HomeBridge update opens up the doors for potentially integrating with thousands of more devices, including popular ones that like I use, Unify. You can turn RTSP on that. Hikvision and Dahua cameras, those are all RTSP streamers as well. Be super simple to integrate these. So pretty cool to see this integration. What do you think, guys?
It was a matter of time before this came because I first saw it with the scripted home automation system. I played with it for a bit. I got my cameras in there. It worked really well. It worked just like a regular camera. I wonder if this is upsetting this type of thing. I wonder if it upsets the people that go through the whole process to get their cameras officially, put into the system and everything. And then HomeBridge comes along and adds it for everybody else, that didn't ask for it. I think it's great. And this is why I love HomeBridge.
Yeah, I don't think it would. I mean, maybe it does bother people who have to go through that process and actually have it officially done. But I don't know. It's one thing to set up a Docker container on your NAS drive for, to run HomeBridge or whatever, or get I think there's that device out there, Hoobs, which is basically a Raspberry Pi that you can buy with it pre-configured and installed, ready to go. But it's one thing to do that, and it's one thing just to go down to the old Apple store while you're there and buy a $30, $40, $50, $100 camera, and it's got the little sticker on it that says it'll work and you can get support on it. So one's going to be a bigger market, and I'm pretty sure it's not the DIY stuff. What I do wonder about is Apple, they've given us storage allowances for camera streams and everything, and it's now people are going to be putting on all of these new camera streams for cameras that Apple knows aren't being sold. So I kind of, all this storage is going to start being taken up. Not that Apple doesn't completely overcharge for their storage, but they're going to see there's somebody it's going to hit the bottom line somewhere. There's going to be some numbers in parentheses on some accountant's sheet somewhere, and that'll be interesting to see what happens then.
Do we know how many people use HomeBridge, or is it possible to even know?
There is a way to kind of tell by looking at the NPM package and seeing that there are this isn't that many, considering there's only about 35,000 weekly downloads, which doesn't necessarily mean those are new people starting. That's also includes updates, or anytime you restart your Docker container, may download an update. So it's a decent amount, but I wouldn't say a huge amount. So it's still a very techy thing to set up and get running.
No, it's pretty cool though.
Yeah, it all of the plugins and everything that the community has worked on and put in, they really work well. They really work well, and I have my entire Control 4 system hooked through it. I've got Unify connected to it. I've got my what is it? A Hive. It's a Hive irrigation thing that I bought at Home Depot for $30 or $40, and it said it had HomeKit on it, but I never could get it to connect to HomeKit. But somebody had written a little Hive integration, and it works great. So there you go. It's in there already. Don't have to worry about it. Go HomeBridge. We should do a HomeBridge special one of these days.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be great. That way I could learn more about it too.
So we start our Unraid servers. Step 1.
We could dedicate one of your servers to HomeKit.
Right. All right. Have you guys been having Wi-Fi difficulties? There's that new Eero access point not working at peak performance, Gavin, maybe? It could be interference caused by your smart water meter, at least according to a few posts over at the Habitat forums. And I did a quick Google search after seeing you post this, Gavin. It looks like there's been articles going all the way back to 2011 discussing the issue that some smart water and electric meters actually run on Zigbee, which does share some of that 2.4 gigahertz spectrum with Wi-Fi. So it could be that interference from the outside world, including your smart meter, could be causing an issue.
And I'm paying close attention to this because this week I got notice that they want to swap out my water meter with a smart one, right? Like the timing of this is just ridiculous. I have it sitting here on my desk and I'm on the third notice now. You know, they made it seem all mad, like I'm not replying to them. But I would be really upset if any utility came in my house, added some device, and now it's messing my other devices up. And it's ruining either my Zigbee network, Z-Wave, my Wi-Fi, whatever. And I have to prove it to them, right? Like everything's working great right now. If they came and swapped in my water meter and everything just started dying, I'm going to be so upset. And I can understand people's frustration with this.
Yeah, and this is one of those things you can't easily narrow down either. You know, I'm sure, you know, if you had some kind of data to go from before the smart meter and then after the smart meter, you could try to troubleshoot it that way. But most of the stuff, you know, is invisible to most people. You're not going to be able to troubleshoot this properly. So it's a crazy problem to have.
Yeah, I was thinking about like what tools are out there to like analyze spectrum and everything, Wi-Fi spectrum, and all I could think of was the that MediGeek like Wi-Spy thing that's been out for years. And I used to have one of these, but it's $1,400 for this thing now. It used to be a few $100 and it was a no-brainer, but $1,400, holy moly! I don't know if there's anything else out there that you can use, but geez Louise, that is expensive. It's gone quite a bit up. Do you guys know of any other Wi-Fi spectrum analyzer things out there? Or is this kind of it?
No, that's what I was just trying to think of too. You know, I know you can use your cell phone as like a rudimentary one, but that's obviously only going to do the 2.4 and the 5 gigahertz.
Yeah, it's not quite the same either because this one will actually show you what, like something that's not a network device, not specifically, you know, will show you what is a Wi-Fi signal. It'll show you interference from something. So I've actually had to use this in the past where we were having some weird Wi-Fi issues, but also some like Zigbee issues because it was running there. And it turned out that the neighbor had one of those older 2.4 gigahertz like baby cameras or something. And it would just, as you got on that side of the house, it would flood out a certain zone. So all I had to do was move my Wi-Fi and Zigbee on that side of the house kind of out of the way of that interference. But there's no way I would have figured that out without having something like this. And man, I don't think I would have ever figured it out if I had to pay $1,400 to get the product. That's wild. If you're listening and you know of something out there that exists, let us know. Would love to maybe test something out that's not $1,400. It's wild.
And it would drive me nuts if the water meter was the cause of it, because you can't just move the water meter. Like I'd cover it in tinfoil probably or something like that and just say, if you want just ask me what the numbers are and I'll send it to you.
Excuse me, I can't turn my lights on and off anymore. Do you mind coming to troubleshoot this for me?
Yeah, I mean, you see, you don't have to move the water meter, but it doesn't move its broadcast signal very often. So you can move your stuff out of its way and kind of you can put what it does is it allows you to put your stuff in the most clean space that may not be recognized by, like Unify has this little scanning thing built into it where it can kind of figure out where all the networks are and move to the right channel. But yeah, I don't think that works on it may pick up interference too and be able to work around that, but I don't know. This is crazy. If you know something, let us know. Feedback at HomeTech.fm. I would love to know if there's something that exists out there that isn't $1,400. That's wild.
This whole story reminds me of there was a story that came out of the UK, I think a couple of years ago now, where supposedly the whole village broadband kept going out for 18 months, and they couldn't figure out why everybody's internet kept going down. And supposedly it was somebody's old TV set in the village that was causing everybody's internet to go down. That's 18 months that somebody spent troubleshooting all those issues.
Oh, this is great. The owner who does not want to be identified was, quote, mortified to find out their old TV was causing the problem.
So it's just one of those problems. How do you even accomplish that, you know?
That's great. The TV was found to be emitting a single high frequency impulse noise, which caused electrical interference on other devices. And that can happen. There could be a faulty product that you have and you don't know that it's doing that. But wow, that's great. We'll have to put that in the show notes as well. That's a funny read. All right, so moving on. Wyze is saying goodbyes. Thanks, TJ, for that one. To the version 1 Wyze Cam starting on February 1st, 2022, as it can, quote, no longer support a necessary security update. Okay. In an email sent out to version 1 owners, Wyze says that you can still use the Wyze Cam V1, but after this date here, Wyze will no longer sell, improve, or maintain the Wyze Cam V1. Oh boy, Gavin. Whoa.
Are you sure you're ready for this? So this is my gripe. This is a bigger problem than Wyze, but we're now going to have all of these Wyze Cam V1s sitting out there with a security vulnerability. And Wyze is just washing their hands and saying, we're no longer supporting it. Here's a coupon code if you want to upgrade, but you can still use it, right? All the hackers are looking at extending their botnet now onto the Wyze V1 cams, depending on the vulnerability. And this is a bigger problem in the industry because when a device gets retired and is no longer updated, but it still works, who's taking care of the vulnerabilities that may be discovered later on? Nobody is. And they're sitting on networks. There's people put them on the internet. They're out there and they're getting hacked. And we need to figure out a way around this, whether there's a committee that would review an exit strategy the same way they would have to review the entrance for Wyze. They would say, okay, you want to retire this product now? Is it safe to leave out there, or do we have to now pull them all out of everyone's house? Security is a big thing and it affects all of us, right? So if we tackle this problem, it will just be good for all of us.
Yeah, and several other companies have tried to do something in regards to updating products, right? So we had Sonos, 2 years ago now, that tried to do their recycling program where you put a speaker in recycle mode, you got 30% off a new speaker, and you're supposed to recycle the old speaker. Nobody really liked that because you were trashing a perfectly good speaker, even though the software updates weren't going to be coming out for it anymore. So it always goes back to that fine line of where do you stop updating hardware and when is that life expectancy up? And especially for a $25 camera, 5 years of updates is pretty good for it. But that obviously doesn't ignore the security issues of leaving them all on the network.
And the scary part is they actually point out there's a security update. They're pointing this out. Hey, there's a security issue with this camera, so we can't support it, but you can still use it. You can still keep it. And that's what drives me nuts about this one.
I was kind of doing some quick searches to figure out what that could be, to see if it was well known as to what the issue might be. And it could be that this is the, I don't know if you guys remember the Wi-Fi crack vulnerability that came out. I know it was last year, 2021 sometime, maybe towards the beginning of the year. It was basically a what is it, WPA2 attack that someone could kind of get in there and change a header or something and start injecting man-in-the-middle attacks into an encrypted network. And maybe that's what it's not, because I'm looking on a thing here. This was back on, this could have changed, but this is February 3rd, 2021. And it says, have you updated Wyze products to protect against the crack vulnerability? And it said, let's see, V2 and for the Cam V2 and for the Cam Pan, they've updated the mitigation for it. But let's see, the Wyze Cam V1s are still vulnerable. And I wonder if that's something that just because of a hardware limitation in there that they're just not going to be able to update whatever Wi-Fi thing they were using in there. It sounds like that could be the issue. Especially like you said, it's a 5-year-old camera. They may not have been thinking about updating the Wi-Fi stack, and when they first started off their company, and they were able to do it right later. It looks like with the newer cameras, V2s and V3s, but this sounds like this could be the actual issue they're talking about, which would affect not only the Wi-Fi, it would affect your Wi-Fi in your house and whatever you're doing in your house, which is even better.
And if that's true, they definitely have a higher obligation to tell people that so people can get them off their networks.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree because it kind of opens you up for that man in the middle. And you could have someone injecting like a link on something on a web page that you click on, or maybe a piece of JavaScript on a web page that you're on that loads some ransomware onto your computer somehow. Like, who knows? Like, they'd have to be physically parked outside your house, but but yeah, it would be. It's very interesting that that this comes. I kind of joke about that, but I see Wyze cameras all the time in businesses, right? And if somebody is, chilling in there, drinking coffee on their laptop, nobody thinks anything about it. And they could just be sitting there hacking the POS system and stealing credit card data all day long, So this could be, like you said, they do kind of have an obligation to move that off the net, tell people to move them off the networks and, get rid of their $25 camera or whatever, and upgrade for another $25.
It's a bigger problem than just Wyze, I find, because you talk about businesses. What if a business has other cameras in there and those cameras are not getting updates and they're not monitoring the camera for security vulnerabilities, but, people are hacking those cameras, who's responsible for that? Like, yeah. These companies need to be responsible when they stop supporting these cameras to take care of them in one way or another.
Yeah, TJ posted a botnets everywhere meme over here in our chat, but you're not wrong. There's like last year there was a Mirai based botnet that was reported on Hikvision cameras, which is, Hikvision is all over. That's kind of like China's camera. It's one of the two, right? And these companies have been basically funded by the Chinese government to produce incredibly featureful but inexpensive cameras for the world. They basically, their goal was to go out and take over the world for security cameras, and they've virtually done that as far as I can tell. But now I guess there's some larger, there's something called MooBot, which is targeting some kind of camera vulnerability, which I guess Hike has said is impossible for them to do, but it's doing it because there is an issue, 9.8 out of 10 critical vulnerability, which is a 0-click unauthenticated remote execution. Yeah, that's not good.
No.
Yeah. Anything that says remote code execution is bad. So yeah, it's CVE 2021 36260, reported on June 20th, 2021, and it says the majority of recent camera product ranges from Hikvision cameras are susceptible to a critical remote unauthenticated code execution vulnerability, even with the latest firmware. Some older models are affected also as far back as 2016. Some NVRs also affected through this as well. So yeah, this is it permits the attacker to gain full control of the device with an unrestricted root shell, which is far more access than even the owner of the device has, as they are restricted to a limited protected shell. So yeah, not good. Not good. And we've seen those botnets kind of take down large swaths of the internet in the past couple of years. Even some of the biggest botnet attacks have been going on. They just haven't been going on here very often. They're targeting kind of Russian and European based things. I think Azure got attacked a couple of times. But there's evidently a big one in what is that? I was talking to our network guy about it. Microtic. They got those routers. MyOS, I think, is what they run on. Has had the tendency to leave the admin port open to the wild world internet there, and of course they had a vulnerability. Somebody figured it out, and now they're installing botnets on millions of routers, and they don't do anything until they command them to do something, and then they can do these incredibly large attacks that just cannot be mitigated. Evidently, they can be mitigated because companies like CloudPoint and the big guys at the very top of the internet are able to do something about it. But I was reading about this, and the amount of data, terabytes of data, petabytes almost, in the matter of minutes that are going through. And they're trying to keep your website up and going. They're trying to keep your email delivered and fight off this craziness coming from thousands of routers at the same time. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild to see I'm glad I don't do that for a living. Not even anything close to that. Gavin, I think you're probably closer to that than I am.
Yeah, no, at work, security at work is a huge thing. We work on it all the time, patching, and it's a big job finding every vulnerability and having to patch every computer out there, because once you have one vulnerable device out on your network, you're in trouble. So that's the problem. And we're constantly in meetings talking about it. The 0-day, patch releases, we got to get out ASAP. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, and they're attacking as fast as ever. They'll take the 0-day. They'll see that the release note said something about the patch. They'll know where to look basically from the patch. They can reverse engineer the patch and say, oh, this is what they changed. Now, by the time they figure out what they've done, and these guys will have something released online or something out there attacking you before the company can roll out a patch to all the devices. And yeah, you have to be really on top of things. It's wild. It's really wild to see how fast this stuff has escalated over the past couple of years.
And now you can rent it all. You can rent a botnet and everything else.
Yeah. Oh yeah. On the dark web, you can do anything. Yeah.
I don't even think you need the dark web now. I think you can just do it on the regular web.
Oh boy. It's the dark web 3. We got to avoid the crypto conversations. They're kind of taking over our chats. All right. Moving on here, all the links and topics we've discussed tonight can be found on our show notes at HomeTech.fm/373. All right, I do have a mailbag today. Ty Benton wrote in a question for the show, and it kind of ties back into what we were talking about Z-Wave earlier. He said, what if Z-Wave becomes the security protocol for Matter, where Zigbee took over the light switches and bulbs? Z-Wave would be for video doorbells, cameras, and security systems. What do you guys think?
I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I found Z-Wave was less affected by something like Wi-Fi, right? And I actually like that for security to be not affected by something. I also like having the multiple protocols in it, so you have like 2 paths. So if you're having problems on one side, it doesn't affect everything, right? If they did this, I would be for it.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't work. After the numbers we talked about earlier, though, I don't see it happening.
He's ready to bury these guys.
Z-Wave is
pathetic
dying.
$1 billion company, $3 billion company.
Well, maybe now that more than one, maybe now that they have more than one chip manufacturer, they'll pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. I will point out here, he mentioned video doorbells. Those are the kind of things you don't want on Zigbee and Z-Wave. That's what Wi-Fi is made for.
Yeah.
But the little point devices, the little sensors, contacts for your doors and windows, those are great on Zigbee and Z-Wave. Let's move all those stuff off Wi-Fi, get it over there, where you can just get that little beacon of signal data coming in. It works extremely fast. Like I've been dealing with, and Gavin, you've dealt with Zigbee, Z-Wave on your end. I've kind of tinkered and kind of reverse engineered like the Control 4 remotes in the past, and it's pretty neat. Like to see all the button presses almost in real time come through, the Zigbee radio, and you can kind of see the path they took to get there and all that. They're not directly connected to the controller; it kind of bounces around your house before it gets there, but it's lightning fast. It's almost, it is real time. It seems real time.
And one of my favorite features of Z-Wave is actually associations. A lot of people don't use associations, but when you can associate 2 devices with each other and the message doesn't have to go through the hub, it's almost instant to see the reaction when you press a switch to when the light comes on. It's pretty much instant. And, if that's something you're interested in, look up Z-Wave associations and using it with your hub.
Do you need a hub? Like, what if your hub goes down? Does it associate then, or does it still have to have that hub up and going?
I believe if the hub goes down, it still goes. I'd have to test it though. I could turn off my hub and try it because I use it throughout my house, right? But I just know the message goes directly from one device straight to the other and doesn't go through any hops or anything like that. And it's like right away.
That's a great idea. I wish Zigbee would do that, because there's a lot of times that your Control 4 controller may go down or something like that, and there's like, what's your backup? Your backup is to get a new controller, but it would be nice if it could kind of do basic things to talk to devices on the network.
Yeah.
It'd be great, because that network doesn't go down. They're still talking to each other. Yeah, interesting. All right, pick of the week this week. Who put this here? We're back into door tech. We're talking about door tech again.
Doors are hot this year.
This is weird, man. All right, so this is the who put this in? One step closer to Star Trek doors. I don't really know how to describe this way power door, but it is basically a pocket door that is powered with a brushless motor. It's got basically a number of control options. You can use gestures. You can use this little glass touch. I think it's not really a touch screen, but it's kind of a glass tap screen on the side. There's an app. There's a remote, like an IR remote, I guess. It's BYOD, so you bring your own door. And there's a kit that includes a brushless motor, jab needed for motorization. It looks, I mean, I've installed these types of things. I can't say I've mostly installed some of these doors before, but it doesn't look that difficult if you're already installing a pocket door compared to installing a regular pocket door. It's kind of the same thing. So it doesn't seem like there's much skill required in that. It's got a 42 volt low volt power supply that hooks into that motor and runs everything. $2,500. I don't know. Interesting. What do you guys think?
I really like this because it looked just like the Star Trek doors, like when you walk up to them, and I wish they would add the sound effect, so you got the sound effect as an optional feature. The only thing I didn't like the waving, because I'm like, by the time you wave to open the door, you could have just opened the door, grabbed the handle and opened the door, right? I want the door to know I'm about to walk through you and be open before I hit the door, right? And I'm sure they're working on that, but it opens and closes really fast. It has sensors so that when it's closing, it's supposed to not close on you. We won't find out until we see the first lawsuit, though. But it looks I really like the look of it. And it takes us closer to Star Trek.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting product. I don't know if I'll be adding it to my house for $2,500.
For a pocket door, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially for a pocket door. It's something different if I can open my front door like that or something. But
if it had the Star Trek sound effect, though, I might have to seriously consider it. That
they just need to add a speaker.
Find a way to integrate it.
Just add a speaker in, and that would. Yeah, and I agree. It should have more sensors leading up to the door to figure out if you're heading that way for like egress or whatever. But because it's weird on the video that the person kind of walks up and waves their hand like real close to the door, and it opens. It opens fast, but it's not the same. Like if you weren't paying attention, you would walk right into that door. I thought this was funny from their FAQs though. Can an irate teenager slam the door? No, the Wyze powered door kit can move very quickly, but accelerates and decelerates smoothly, so it can never slam. It suggested another satisfying loud object be made available for safe emotional release of irate teenagers, such as a large gong. And so there you go.
My dog will hate this door because currently he just pushes his nose against our current doors, to get into the house. But he won't be able to do that with this, right?
Maybe he'll be able to jump up and just activate it that way.
You just take one of those keypad things and lower it down the wall.
And teach him to wave?
He just puts his nose on it. It's just a little like metal keypad. There you go. That's all you need. All right. If you have any feedback, questions, comments, picks of the week, or great ideas for the show, give us a shout. Our email address is feedback@HomeTech.fm, and you can visit HomeTech.fm/feedback and fill out the online form. All right. Well, guys, that pretty much wraps everything up for HomeTech this week. Gavin, you're done with the dryer. What's next?
That's kind of funny that you asked, because I was prepping dinner today and I looked at my range hood and I was kind of thinking about the range hood, and I was like, I don't need to automate this. And then, I was upstairs and I forgot the range hood on, and I had to walk all the way back downstairs to turn it off. And I was like, what, if I automated, I could have just asked Lady A to turn it off for me. So I'm thinking about it.
We need to work on this. I have the same problem, and mine is a stupid, like the interface is horrible, but
yes.
It's got these like, they're not buttons, they're like the touch sensitive buttons, but they're not buttons. You just have to lay your finger on it and it picks up that you put your finger there. It's not touch capacity. It's lame. But it does, it like clicks on 2 speeds for the fan, 2 levels for the lights, but you can hear the relay in there clicking. So yeah, this may be a really good project. If we can Wi-Fi or Zigbee-ize our
I was thinking the Fabaro implant sensors. I think it's Fabaro that has the implant sensors. How I could wire those in, because you have power coming into it, and it's just a matter of wiring it into the switch some way. But again, we're doing this like live on the air. I haven't really thought about it as much yet, but it's one of those ideas.
I was thinking like Arduino or something. Like I was gonna go low level on this, but all right, I'll look at a 4-bar implant. Oh yeah, that actually could work. TJ, what about you? What do you got going on?
My wife bought me a Habitat hub for Christmas birthday this year. So I might actually work on getting that set up properly. For the past month, I've been using it just with voice control to, turn on and off my lights. I haven't really dove into setting up scenes and everything. I've been kind of annoyed and just flustered on how it works compared to what I'm used to. And so that's been kind of off-putting for me. But it doesn't seem that difficult in the long run. I really just need to sit down with it.
If you need some help, we can have a little support group session going. We'll get Greg in the chat in there. I'll give you guys the rundown on the basics of it and how to get things up and going. And hopefully there'll be an update for the Z-Wave stick this week that we can maybe make things better for you too. We'll see.
And if we need Unraid help, are you guys going to be available this week for?
Oh, Gavin is the Unraid master. I asked Gavin for help.
Yeah,
so.
let me know. I'll be here. I'm always around. I'll help you out.
We're gonna get this thing. As soon as I plug it in, it sounds like you turn on like 3 blow dryers. So, got to get it to where it doesn't do that. But yeah, it put it in this nice rack that I bought. I didn't know I was gonna put anything in this rack other than like gear I was working on. But now, I've got a rack, so I may as well put it in, I guess. But yeah. These things are loud. Have you ever heard a server like the fans that are in there? They're not quiet. They don't have to be, and they don't want to be.
Yeah, they're not meant to be quiet.
No,
they're meant to work.
They're meant to.
Have you ever been in a server room, like a real like data center? I was in one. I believe it was in IBM, one of IBM's ones, and it was just rows and rows like you see in the movies. And I sat there, and the hum of the servers was starting to put me to sleep while I was working on something. But it was amazing how loud it was.
Yeah, it's almost deafening. You don't realize it until you step back out.
Yeah, well,
hopefully that server's not anywhere near you.
It's right here.
When it's working.
I will say that there's no hard drives or anything in it. And when I did turn it on, after its initial like whatever it has to do to calibrate the fans or whatever it's deafening to sit here next to it. After that, it did quiet down and was kind of like a normal computer. But yeah, from what I read online is like it monitors the health of like hard drives. And if it detects anything off about or can't read a temperature, it's like fans are full blast. So I've got to buy the right drives to go into it, I guess.
You got to buy some expensive Noctua fans. That way you can jack up that server.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna.
You don't want to spend $30 on an 80mm fan?
No. I don't really want to invest any more into this project because I don't know. I'm glad I got something to tinker with, but it's not. I'm not going to. I say this now, but I've already started to look for like. Direct attached storage and how that works, like different RAID controllers. Yeah, there's
not
options.
Even to the expensive part yet.
Yeah, I haven't got to the expensive part. Yeah, this is just the entry level, to get me going, and then I'll realize, maybe I should have sprung for the way more expensive version because this one will cost me.
So this is a sneak peek into next week's show.
Right.
How much did you spend?
Oh, it's already more than I want. Hey, I've got to get rid of these servers too somehow. I've got 6 of them that filled up my entire car. And I was driving around with like the back wheels rubbing on. They're like 30 to 40 pounds a piece. They're not light. Yeah. So that was fun, but I've got to get rid of them somehow now because I don't need 6 computers, much less 6 servers. So I don't know. We'll see what servers are massive too. I keep saying computers, like people think of a laptop or something. No. Like probably 3 feet deep, I guess. My assumption it's rack width, but at least 3 feet deep on the cabinet. Like it is deep.
Yeah, I was surprised that you're even going to be able to fit them in the rack because a lot of times those actual servers are way deeper than like an AV rack. So I don't know what kind of rack you have, but
there was my other mistake.
You didn't measure, did you?
I bought a rack and I was looking at a few of them and I'm like, oh, this one works. But I got the width right and I got the height right, which I was concerned with. I didn't check the depth measurement, but I've got the full depth like IT rack here now. So I can actually mount AV gear back to back and have 2 racks, but this will definitely fit the depth of it, of the entire rack. And hopefully stay quiet.
You don't sound so sure. You still sound like you're doubting it a bit.
Because we always have people try to give us server racks, and we can almost never use server racks just because they're like twice as deep. And it would be nice to, because the server racks are like many thousands of dollars.
Right. And you have room to work. Like there's so much room in there for activities. But no, this is my wife looked at it and she's like, how are you getting that out of the garage to go to a job somewhere? I'm like, no, this is staying here now. I can't ship it back. It's out of the box. But yeah, she wasn't too happy about it, but I was able to kind of like tuck it away in the corner, and it works for the purposes that I was trying to do. The purpose of cleaning stuff off the floor, that I had just started to pile IT equipment up on the floor, and that all ended up in the rack. But now I've got 6 more servers over there in the corner that I've got to like get rid of or hide, or I don't know, toss in the creek. I'm not sure.
Every room gets a server.
Here's your blow dryer. Hope you like listening to this all night. Oh man. All right, guys. Well, all right, we do want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports this show, but especially those who are able to financially support the show through the Patreon page. If you don't know what a Patreon page is, head on over to HomeTech.fm/support to learn how you can support HomeTech for as little as $1 a month. Any pledge over $5 a month gets you a big shout out on the show, but every single pledge gets you an invite to our private Slack chat, The Hub, where you and other supporters of the show can gather every day for inside conversations about all aspects of home technology and cryptocurrency and NFTs and whatever's going on. I had to tune out today. There was about 40 or 50 messages floating by about that. Yay. If you want to help out the show but can't support with cryptocurrency conversation, you can just drop in a 5-star review on iTunes or a positive rating in the podcast app of your choice. That would help people find the show, and we totally appreciate that. So that wraps up another week in Home Tech. From everyone here, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.